In this box is one of the most exciting football boots of 2025. This is part of the innovation pack from Mizuno that recently dropped, and this is the Mizuno Alpha 2 Limited. Some really interesting tech coming out of here. Now, a couple disclosures really quick. I got these boots from Ultra Football, so Mizuno had no part in the transaction, and they don't get to see the review before you guys do here on YouTube. I bought the boots with my own money, so here we go. All right, so the innovation pack from Mizuno. Now, this is a rebuild. That's sort of their little catchphrase for this innovation pack, which basically has 5 different models, one of which is, really quick, US 9, UK 8, Euro 42, same as the normal Alpha 2 that I reviewed, that I actually have right here. So this is the Alpha 2, which I'll be referencing in a couple areas of this video. Now, the rebuild pack has 5 different football boots. You have the Alpha 2, you have the Morelia Neo 4 Beta Limited, you have 2 pairs of the Morelia 2 in different forms, and then you also have a Monarcida Neo, which is a Japan exclusive of the innovation pack. So nice little innovation pack branded, what do you call this? Boot bag, I guess. It's very cheap. This is one thing that I always kind of knock Mizuno on. It's like, we pay $320 for the top end football boots from your brand. Surely you can come up with something a little more innovative than that. But again, I get the argument that some people are like, dude, they're putting the money into the boots. Fair play. All right, here we go. With the Alpha 2. Oh my days. Oh my days. Yep. Oh, look at that sole plate too. How cool is that? Okay, so I will actually leave these in here, and I want to show you guys. So this is obviously the Morelia Neo 4 Beta, and this is the Mizuno Alpha 2. So with this boot, you get the Mizuno Alpha 2 upper with the sole plate of the Morelia Neo 4 Beta. So this is Mizuno, in my opinion, just absolutely flexing its muscles a little bit, and I also think it's taking advantage of some of the kind of downfall of some of the other brands. People are getting really frustrated with how Nike's been performing recently. Not as many people are buying Nike football boots anymore, and it's one of those brands that I think is going to really be able to take advantage of the way that those, sort of quote unquote heritage brands are falling apart a little bit. Puma hasn't been doing as well. Adidas has been probably the best out of those 3, the Puma, Nike, Adidas trio, for at least a year or 2 now. And I think Mizuno is really trying to take over the market share that those other 2 brands are leaving on the table. Now, in terms of the Alpha 2 Japan, as I said, Alpha 2 upper and Morelia Neo 4 sole plate. So this is what they're calling the DNA black color, and it's the 6 different materials in the upper. You've got a 5-layer material or 6-layer material upper, which is super, super soft from straight out of the box. It's really, really nice. It's one of the most incredibly constructed synthetics on the market, bar none. It's very responsive. It's got the little bit of kind of that plush sensation you get with this kind of cage underneath it. And you also have the ZeroGlide layer across the entirety of the inside. That's one thing that's an upgrade from the Alpha 1, which only had ZeroGlide basically from the end of the lacing system all the way back in the heel, which, to be fair, was already incredible, but they've done that treatment to the entirety of the inside, which is awesome, as well as the underside of the tongue. If you want more details on the exact names for all of the materials in this upper, you can go over to the full unboxing and review of the launch colorway, which feels a little bit more plasticky, if I'm honest. This feels a lot softer. I think that's just because of the color treatment on this one, whereas the DNA Black series is much more, it's much more raw, and so it doesn't have any sort of excessive color treatment. So I'd imagine that this one is actually going to fit a little bit, even potentially better straight out of the box than this one did, and this one was already really fantastic, which is really cool. This is built on the engineered FitLast Neo, which is the same as both of these football boots. So both of them feel the exact same in terms of fit and sizing. Obviously, upper material makes a pretty substantial difference, as well as the width of the sole plate. So generally speaking, both boots fit same to the same size. So if you have the Alpha and the Morelia Neo 4 Betas, you're going to fit size-wise pretty much the same on both. The only time that I think people could potentially go down half a size is with the Morelia Neo 4 Beta with that leather forefoot. With a synthetic boot, you want to make sure that the size is actually really spot on. So that's just my recommendation there. You do have a 24-hour lasting period because this is a made in Japan product, as well as a very ergonomic shape, which is really nice. And then you do have the Neo 4 outsole, which is one of the best on the market, bar none. It's got a really nice and responsive forefoot, super, super good Y-shank here, which follows kind of more of that ergonomic shape through the central kind of fascia of the midfoot of the underside of your foot, with the conical studs with one little kind of ovular shape here in the forefoot that adds a little bit of forward momentum. But for the most part, this sole plate is very neutral. It's very grounded. This is one of my favorite sole plates on the market on the regular model, as well as a very similar type of sole plate on things like the DS-Lite X-Fly 5, the X-Fly Pro 3, and other type of ASICS and Mizuno products that lean into this more neutral, grounded, kind of can play on any surface type of stud pattern. This, with the new sole plate, weighs in right around 190 grams, which is about 6.7 ounces. This is the lightest of this innovation pack. And so you will definitely feel a difference in the way that it feels. In terms of weight between this one and this one, I can't really tell a difference. I would say this one feels slightly lighter weight, but I could be totally wrong. It just, in hand, this one feels like marginally lighter. Again, the only time I'm ever going to talk about weight is just from a spec sheet. I'm not really ever going to probably weigh the boots because I genuinely think it never really matters. You as a footballer are going to be maximizing your own abilities. A couple grams here and there, an ounce here and there is actually not going to affect the performance of a football boot. Maybe you're going to be able to tell the difference between a boot like this and a Copa Mundial for obvious reasons. One is a lot heavier than the other. It's about a 50-gram difference, 60-gram difference, even more sometimes. But in terms of actual weight of the shoe, it really doesn't matter. So what I'm really excited for with this model is going out to the field and testing it in comparison to the regular Alpha. So without further ado, guys, let's jump into the on-feet portion of the video where we'll do a full play test, make sure we break down all of the differences that you can tangibly feel between these two models. My guess is that this one has already sold out pretty much everywhere worldwide. I know that on May 12th it releases in Europe, I think, May 12th. It released here in Australia almost a week ago of the filming of this video, so it's April 30th now. I think it released on the 25th or something like that. And I think they're already completely sold out. So most likely you'll have to buy them on the aftermarket or the tertiary market, like on Instagram and GOAT and StockX and all those places. However, with the playtest, I want to actually make sure that it's a boot that, hey, how does this compare to the regular edition? And also, how does this compare to the AG model of this, which is a very, very similar outsole, i.e. no carbo and no stud pattern that's super, super aggressive. So let's hop into it. All right, guys, out here at the pitch with the Innovation Pack Mizuno Alpha. Now, I did bring the other model, like the the standard regular model. One of the major differences between the two is obviously the sole plate, but what that comes with is the Morelia Neo insole. So obviously this regular edition has ZeroGlide everywhere on the inside, including the removable sock liner. This one has all the ZeroGlide on the inside of the boot, but it doesn't have the removable sock liner with ZeroGlide. So let's get these on feet and see if there's any differences. For the footwork part of the video just here, I might actually wear one on each foot just to show you guys kind of the differences between the two. Getting feet in, yeah, very nice. Typical Mizuno Alpha 2 comfort. These are fantastic. As I mentioned in the unboxing, this upper actually feels a little bit less plasticky than this one. The standard model, whatever this, I think it was just this particular rainbow colorway just felt a little bit kind of synthetic-y. They're the same uppers, it's just a color treatment, but with the blackout edition, there's no color treatment on the upper. And so the softness of this one, as you can see, wiggling my toes here, very, very comfortable straight out of the box. Now, I can't really tell straight away whether the sole plate's gonna make much of a difference. you can definitely feel the lack of Carvo insert, which is kind of interesting. But oh, let's get the, I'll put the standard one on my right foot just so you guys can get a sense of what that is like. And these ones I've worn several times. It's a lot harder to get into these ones because of that removable sock liner. There we go. All right. So it feels pretty good. There we go. Get the, God, so much bunching. Like there is just an absurd amount of grip on the inside of this boot. We'll also figure out kind of, you know, in terms of what you guys like, do you like a boot that's got unbelievable amounts of grip, or do you want a little bit of leeway to kind of slide around in your boot? I don't think either is going to be a problem so long as the sizing of the boot is correct. So if we look right here, sizing of the new limited model, perfect, true to size, 9 US, right on the front, and then same with here. That is because, as I mentioned in the unboxing portion of the video, these boots are built on the same last, so they do have identical sizing. Yeah, nice. Okay, so immediately you can tell the differences between the two models, particularly underfoot. I don't think one is necessarily worse than the other. They're just definitely different. The Neo 4 sole plate, so the all black ones, feel much more kind of ergonomic. So it feels much more natural to kind of move with. Whereas the standard model is, if you can see this, the standard model is a lot flatter. So it's a lot flatter and it's got a ton of spring. And so as you're moving through here and as you're moving, you can really feel it's a lot kind of stiffer on the standard edition as opposed to this one, which actually feels really natural and I think really complements the upper. Now, of course, the Alpha is built to be super intense and super responsive, but it's just a question of like, okay, do you want the upper that's really responsive and the sole plate that's a little bit more cruisy? It's kind of up to you, I guess. I don't know. I tend to prefer something maybe in between the two. All right, so I got the other shoe on, so now I've got both on. I'm gonna just tie them really quick as well. I think the biggest thing that I'm noticing, obviously the sole plate is a big one, so it feels a lot more kind of natural. If you guys have ever worn the Alpha 1 in AG, or even the Alpha 2, to be fair, in AG, this is gonna feel a lot more similar to that, even though the AG sole plate of the Alpha has a very similar kind of flatness, if you will. Like if you just hold the boot in hand, it's very flat underneath, whereas the Morelia Neo 4 sole plate has a little bit more of that rock to it. Now, touch underfoot, as I said, like I think most people are gonna enjoy both boots. I just think conical studs, particularly the Mizuno ones that have a little bit of softness on the bottom, like the grip that they put, the little texture that they put on the bottom of the conical studs feel just like so natural and so balanced to play on. And so it's one of those things where it's like, even though I think the Alpha regular is a better product, I think I honestly think I might prefer these ones just because it's like all the benefits of that super thin, beautiful upper, but with kind of the neutrality of the sole plate that I usually prefer. So this is gonna be a little bit of a warm up, flipping the little goal or rebounder thing upside down. That way the ball will pop up. So as I hit it against the wall, boom. And then I'm just gonna take a touch out and kind of pass finish into the bottom corner. I've got 6 balls, alternate each side. Nice little easy warm up, get the adductors kind of warm before I start doing any sort of proper shooting. But I'm gonna expect that this is gonna be very, very similar playing wise to the Alpha. You might be able to notice a little bit of, I think, you know, as you sort of get into the boots and as you start to play with them, especially on a turf pitch, I think you're gonna notice that the conical studs are gonna feel a lot more natural underfoot. I think that's why the design of the Morelia Neo 4 stud pattern is so popular, right?
Asics DS Lite X-Fly 5 uses something very similar. X-Fly Pro 3. There's a lot of stud patterns that have now sort of keyed in to the magic of a stud pattern like this. And so I think what you're looking at here is, did Mizuno ruin a really good boot, that is the Alpha with the crazy aggressive traction and stud pattern and all that stuff, or did they just make it slightly detuned a little bit but still make it an incredible product? My opinion is that it's the latter, even though I think most boot people will argue that like the Alpha 2 is the objectively better product and this one is kind of like pointless, if you will. All right, getting into some shooting, little dribble here, bounce off the wall, and then a one-time finish. So as I come out of here, I'm just gonna play it, and my goal, it's kind of like a set off the 9, and then goal is to wrap it into the far corner. Not looking for a ton of power, that's for the next little drill, but this one, just getting a little bit of that wrap around the foot. Here, play it off the wall, and control it into the bottom corner. That's okay, that's totally fine. Pinpoint precision. Man, I know there was a lot of commentary online about how these are sort of a waste and you might as well have just made like a proper AG model. But I love this stud pattern just as it is, right? Whether it's on this boot, whether it's on the Neo 4 Beta. And so for me, this is a fabulous pair of football boots. I'm obviously a total for a blackout pair of boots as well. Oh, gotta control that. Geez, the 9's hitting me. Bounce passes back. But man, I love blackout boots, so maybe I'm looking at this with rose-tinted glasses on, but I think this is an excellent product. And I think this takes all of the responsiveness of that Alpha upper and puts it into a package that's, got a ton of pivot power, plays much better on an AG surface compared to the Alpha 2 sole plate. This is a winning package for me. Do I think it's better than the other model, like the reverse, right? Alpha sole plate on the Morelia Neo 4? No. But I still think this is an absolutely excellent product. All right, this is a little fun one. 3 little gates and then bounce off the wall, touch inside, and rip. I'm gonna try to smash this one, obviously place it, but get some good power behind it as well. So see how we go. Definitely feeling pretty good today. Weather is great, not a lot of wind, and try to get a little techie with it. Touch. There we go, nice, little near post action. Love that. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about these boots, honestly. Like, there's not much complaining to do. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's boring, it's, you ruin the Alpha. Yeah, really? Because if you actually play with these and really kind of get a sense for, I think it's a little more of like a natural flavor of Alpha, if you will. So it's a lot more like, I feel a lot safer on AG surfaces. Bins, nice. Whereas I feel like with the normal Alpha sole plate, sometimes on AG I get a little nervous because they are studs that are pretty close together. So yeah, but like, what is there to say about the Alpha upper, right? Like the Alpha upper is incredible. It's super grippy. Grip socks aren't going anywhere, and the responsiveness and the ball feel is just pretty much second to none. That's why it's like debatable. I mean, it's not really debatable at this point, but it's basically the best speed boot on the market. So in terms of now break-in time and width, I feel like I have a little bit more kind of space right here. It's popping out just a little bit. Keep in mind, I'm not using the runner's loop knot yet, so that'll come later in the break-in process. But from a width perspective, they feel a little bit narrower than the regular Alpha. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're a wider foot shape, I might go just with the regular Alpha instead. Good width, but a little bit off kilter there. And so wider feet, regular Alpha. If you got narrow feet and you find the Alpha too much, like has too much room, which is kind of surprising, I would probably go with this model just because it does have a little bit It's a little bit more narrow. There it is. Nice, up and down. So yeah, I mean, I think the Alpha is kind of the undisputed king of the speed boot market. Like there's really nothing that competes with it, objectively speaking. It is, from a performance perspective, you have all of the, ooh, good hit. Just came off my foot. All of the objective performance characteristics. It has literally everything. This just sort of tunes it down a little bit. So I don't know, man. It's an excellent product. Let's jump into some crossbar challenge. All right, and of course, we got to do crossbar challenge because why the heck not? The touch on the Alpha is so interesting and unique. And for those who haven't tried it or who have had the launch colorway that I tried on over at the beginning of the video, that one does have more of a waxy sensation to it, whereas this one, being matte black, is much more like, there's kind of no BS on it. The upper doesn't feel, it's not slippery, but it doesn't have any sort of that like waxy sensation to it. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And yeah, let's jump into some conclusion thoughts. All right guys, so concluding my thoughts on the Alpha Innovation Pack. Excellent product, excellent execution. Is it super special compared to the AG model? I would say so, because the AG Alpha has, it's much flatter and it's much more similar to the kind of the basic model. But this blackout model with the conical studs and the Morelia Neo 4 sole plate is an absolutely sensational product. Again, do I think it compares really in like specialness to the opposite of this one, right? So the Neo 4 Beta upper with the Alpha sole plate? No, of course not, because that one's like incredibly special, right? It's the epitome of leather speed boots. Whereas this one feels a lot more like, oh, this is what the Alpha could have been, right? Like Mizuno could have just made a synthetic, beautiful synthetic upper and just used their speed boot sole plate. Obviously, instead they went with something totally new and unique. Although if you look at the stud pattern, it's not that unique. It's just a different shape of stud. But this one obviously has the carvo, so it's a lot more springy, whereas this one feels a lot more natural. It feels very good. I love this sole plate, so I have absolutely zero complaints about this boot, other than maybe the little bit of bowing that happens on the outside. But for a wide foot shape like me, you definitely, like, if you're like me, you're gonna get probably a little bit more bang for your buck out of the normal one, because it does feel a little bit wider compared to this one. I think the sole plate of the Neo 4 Beta is just that little bit more narrow compared to the Alpha sole plate, or I guess, there you go. So that's kind of the comparison, right? So overall, excellent product. Would highly recommend if you're somebody who wants the Alpha and you want, I think this is maybe the question really then becomes, this is just a really niche product. So this is for somebody who really wants the aggressiveness, the thin synthetic upper of the Alpha, but they want a conical stud pattern that's really natural, but more aggressive than the AG model. So this sits kind of between like the Alpha 2 AG and the regular Alpha 2, right? So most aggressive, middle, and then you've got the AG model at the bottom that's got the normal AG plate that's actually on the Morelia Proto. That video will be coming out soon as well. And I'm gonna play on this AG surface with them as well. So yeah, excellent product, man. I think this for me falls kind of third on the list of specialness in the new innovation pack lineup. So the opposite of this one, the Morelia Neo 4 Beta with the Alpha sole plate is first, Proto is second, or maybe theirs are tied. This one comes next for me. And then I'd say probably after that is the Monorceta and then the Morelia 2 Wagyu leather. Those are my opinions, but let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think. And as always, be awesome, take care. I'll see y'all in the next video.